Earlier this month, Alivea flew to Idaho, hired a lawyer, and the next day drove from her parents' home to Lewiston to meet with the Idaho State Police.
Yeah, and I had dinner with your parents the other night when I was in Idaho, and they mentioned to me, "Oh, Olivia is going to meet with the prosecutor." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And they were like, "Yeah, she's going by herself." I'm like, "She's going by herself? Like that's so intense." So I know you flew to Idaho. I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, so that was October 6th. And I, uh, I, I love my parents, but I am an adult too. And it's difficult for me to kind of be a grieving sister in the room with them because I let their grief overshadow mine, right? They're grieving parents. They lost a daughter. I hope to God I never know what that feels like. But sometimes it makes it difficult for me to find a place in the room. So it was important for me to be able to, kind of be able to dictate and to get answers that, I'm really looking for, not help my dad or help my mom or play this like weird median that I would often play in these prosecutor meetings. So, I met with members of the prosecution team and a member of the Moscow Police Department who was an investigator, as well as the Idaho State Police, an investigator from the Idaho State Police.
And so you just went by yourself?
Yeah, sorry, I'm shaking. I went by myself. I had my attorney there. She's a local Utah attorney and who was just kind of helping me with the documents as they're coming out to be able to make sure that we all get those. But yeah, it was a really traumatizing meeting. But it was a necessary step for me to be able to basically be hurt behind closed doors so that I could manage my expectations going forward. I'm not sure if I totally answered you there. I'm sorry.
No, you did. So is it just, I'm just trying to like, I guess, visualize it. Do you just go into like a conference room and it's you and then Bill Thompson and Idaho State Police just all sitting there basically?
Yeah. So it was a conference room at the Idaho State Police District 2 quarters in Lewiston, Idaho. I drove down early in the morning from my parents' house in Rathdrum, Idaho. And there's, me on one side of the table and them on the other. And I really wanted it to be an open-ended conversation where the investigators were kind of able to provide me how it kind of unfolded for them, because I've never really gotten their opinions. I've never really heard their thoughts on it. I've never, really humanized them in a way to understand what it looked like for them, because this was their life day in and day out for, 7 weeks and then after. It was nice to hear that real human aspect of them and, kind of what it looked like from the inside out, because I had only had the perspective of being on the outside.
Were you able to get any of your questions answered?
Yeah. A lot of the questions that I had were answered. Doesn't mean that more won't come up as more comes out, but I was very satisfied at the end of the meeting with, as satisfied as you can be. We're not talking about, a recipe here. At the end of the day, it's still murder, and it's still the death of, my sister. So there's not really positivity there. And I don't even want to say that there's closure, but I do think that it helped me immensely to be able to have these pieces put together for me to help me make sense and understand what happened in my head.
Were they able to tell you any more about, I guess like one of the questions I've always just still had and still think about is like motive and why those kids, why that house? Like, were there any, I don't want to say theories, but did they have any more insight into that?
So not necessarily, and maybe it's because the why it's never kept me up at night. I've never cared about the why. So that wasn't really something that I pushed them for. I will say, when you look at the CAS data and the 23 different occasions that he was at the house, they don't all line up with just one person. So it's not like he was only ever there when, Kaylee was. They're very random and they're very sporadic, which to me made more sense, because I was always confused when they said someone was targeted, then maybe the house was targeted, then no, someone was targeted. And it almost made more sense to me knowing this, thinking maybe it really was the location, right? Maybe it really was more of a non-specific that became a specific because we know that he went directly to the third floor. But maybe it was more so just, a vantage point looking out, inside from the out that he found particularly interesting or something. But again, that why it's never bothered me. For me, I've always known that the why would never make sense.
So what were you hoping to get out of the meeting, I guess? Like, was there something specific?
Yeah, so there was a couple things. I wanted to take a look at the complete surveillance footage that was put together that showed his movements from, a little after 3 a.m. to, 4:20, 4:30. And that's extremely comprehensive. When you see that as a full picture of the car being here, then here, then here, tracking those movements. I wanted to see the cast report and these 23 different occasions. When did they start? When did they stop? Are we talking about, he was outside for 4 minutes, or are we talking about he was outside for 4 hours? And then something that really was something that was difficult for me to process was the thought of the crime scene photos leaking. So we know that there is a leak somewhere. I think it's still currently being investigated. And I basically left it up to them. And I told them, if you're confident that these photos are safe, I don't need to see anything. But if you think that there's a chance that they will leak,